On Saturday, we had the White House Correspondents Dinner, the big night where the political elites and the media elites and people like Justin Bieber, for whatever reason, all gather in the same place to congratulate each other on being awesome. And it is funny, though. There's been some controversy in the past. Stephen Colbert raised a lot of eyebrows with his jokes. I thought it was awesome. But let's take a look at some of the jokes that were told at this White House Correspondents' Dinner. First, we're going to be going to President Obama.
I am happy to be here, even though I am a little jet-lagged from my trip to Malaysia. The links we have to go to get CNN coverage these days. MSNBC is here. They're a little overwhelmed. They've never seen an audience this big before. For example, I got a lot of grief on cable news for promoting Obamacare to young people on Between Two Ferns. But that's what young people like to watch. And to be fair, I am not the first person on television between two potted plants. As a general rule, things don't end well if the sentence starts, "Let me tell you something I know about the Negro." Just a tip for you. Don't start your sentence that way. And speaking of conservative heroes, the Koch brothers bought a table here tonight, but as usual, they used a shadowy right-wing organization as a front. Hello, Fox News. You know, I get letters from folks around the country every day. I get 10 that I read. This one got to me. A Virginia man who's been stuck in the same part-time job for years. No respect from his boss, no chance to get ahead. I really wish Eric Cantor would stop writing me. And I'm feeling sorry, believe it or not, for the Speaker of the House as well. These days, the House Republicans actually give John Boehner a harder time than they give me. Which means orange really is the new black.
That is a really good joke. That was the best joke of the night. I mean, that was a great joke.
I mean, I would hate to be the guy. I mean, I would love to be the guy who has to headline it, but it's a tough job to follow Barack Obama.
Of course it is.
He's been knocking it out of the park better than the comedians have for a couple of years now, and he's, you know.
And everybody's there to see him.
Yes.
So when you're Joel McHale and you come on next, you can only go down. You know, I mean, I don't know why people take it. No, he's a professional. Conan O'Brien's a professional. Jay Leno, whatever you think of him, a professional, right?
Stephen Colbert.
But it does Stephen Colbert. But you're going after the president. Everybody in the room is there to see the president. Also, President Obama started a little late this time, and so there's that too, which everybody kind of wants to get out of there at a certain point as well.
But you can do it. Like Seth Meyers was solid. He was funny, solid. I haven't seen Joel McHale's. I'm going to guess he was also solid and funny. But there's a difference between being solid and funny and stealing the show.
Right.
Right? Stephen Colbert stole the show, and the reason why he stole the show was because he told not only jokes, but jokes that were uncomfortable truths.
Right. Well, that's true. And also, there's a difference going on after who he went on after and going on, you know. So
after George Bush.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad that you brought that up, though, because before we started this, I mean, obviously, I've only seen a couple of these. Like, I haven't been, you know, like 10-year-old John, like, oh, let's watch the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
That
didn't really happen.
Michael.
Well, I'm not surprised. But no, I wasn't doing that. And so I remember some of the Bush ones, and I remember, you know, Barack Obama's always done well. And so you were telling me that you think it really has to do a lot with their communication style.
The people that communicate, Ronald Reagan was great at it. Bill Clinton was very good at it. George Bush, the first, not so great at it. Didn't have the great timing. Loved to laugh, you know, that kind of stuff like his son. But it wasn't really, nothing like, you know, Reagan, Clinton, and Obama. They're better communicators, and they came through on the Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that, I mean, for some presidents, their performance at the dinner is worlds apart from the normal sort of speech they would give.
Yeah.
But Barack Obama's always been very comfortable throwing in one-liners and jokes and telling sort of funny anecdotes.
But there's something different about it now because it's talked about now. It didn't used to. I mean, it used to be talked about. You used to have to really look for coverage of the Correspondents' Dinner, which I did because I like this stuff. First of all, I love comedy, and I like when you see people relaxed, and whatever people say, oh, it's too close, the journalists and the politicians and everybody, it's one night a year. It's one night, and I think that's what has always been so great about it. It doesn't mean that they're going to go back. I mean, Ed Henry was the president of the White House Correspondents Association last year, and he was the person who hosted it, and he and the president have just been at loggerheads all year. This does not mean that they're in bed together because they spend one night. These people have very little contact with the president. He comes in, he makes his jokes, he sits for dinner at the dais, and then he leaves.
I would caution journalists or people who are paid as journalists to refrain from actually being seen yucking it up too much or like dancing with, I don't know, like a war criminal. That would be a bad thing.
Right. Well, it's always a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not only a bad thing at the White House Correspondents Dinner. That kind of stuff actually happens all year long. This is one night. So it's a little bit different. And so the cynics are going to say, and I understand why they're cynical about it, but it's also it's a fun night, and then it's like it's a work party.
Well, it's supposed to be, that's the thing, like politics is, when did people start becoming interested in this? I remember I was always interested in it.
Well, they started becoming interested in it, I think, when celebrities started to go regularly. There was a time when there was always entertainment. The entertainment might have been like a puppet show or an animal act or something like that. Then they started bringing, really, I mean, that's what they were, before television even. They've had this dinner now for, I think, 7,500 years. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. And then Kennedy said he wasn't going to go to the dinner until the Correspondents Association allowed women into the association. They finally did. Kennedy went to the event
because he wanted to get laid.
But obviously, right, yeah, of course, right. It wasn't right. They were saying Truman was saying it, but no one was listening. The women didn't want to go when Truman was. But truthfully, and then it started. Then celebrities started going. I would say it got Reaganified a little bit, and also media was interested in these things because you saw these people much more frequently on C-SPAN. So it was interesting to see Newt Gingrich on C-SPAN with the gavel, and then him being roasted. So there was a different cachet to it.
Was it always roasty like this?
Yeah, it was always roasty. And there's another one called the Gridiron Dinner, which is not televised. Which is actually it's another one. It's a Washington Press Corps that does this, and the president speaks as well. That's not televised.
So it's not just one
it's
night
not just
per
one.
year,
Actually, it's two nights. Yeah, but there are no celebrities at the one. Yeah, you're right, John. It is two nights.
So you talked about how, I mean, you've both mentioned George W. Bush. It was a very different thing, and I've gotten tweets about, what do you think about the politicians and the journalists? And I think that when you have jokes like we just saw from Barack Obama, it doesn't really seem like an issue. He's making fun of the media. He's telling the exact same sorts of jokes that we would tell here, for instance. But George W. Bush, I think, struck a chord with people when he was joking, for instance, famously about not being able to find the WMDs. Like that doesn't really feel like fodder for comedy. Like I believe you should be able to joke about anything, except maybe you're the war criminal who caused us to go to the war. Like it'd be one thing if it was Stephen Colbert, which it was to some extent.
But self-effacing and listen, I'm not defending it. The people who criticize for that are absolutely justified in being critical of it. But I think that there's something about comedy. If you're going to say this is a night of comedy, it's a night of comedy.
Yeah.
And you go blue, you go dark, you go wherever. And that made me uncomfortable too. Like I didn't like when he made that joke and made a lot of people uncomfortable. It was also right in the middle of it. Even this Malaysia thing, I think people probably would have had a hard time with, oh my God, he's making a Malaysia joke about looking for a plane that's under the sea somewhere. So
that's true.
But by the same token, okay. It's not.
When Barack Obama made the Jonas Brothers drone joke, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. Now, I remember going, ooh, that's a little weird that you would do that. Like, oh, I'm going to send, like you are sending drones that are killing innocent people. Right. That's a little fucked up that you're going to kid about.
But he's making fun of people who are making fun of him. So let's take drones. Barack Obama, we know, believes in the use of drones, right? So he is lampooning the people that are making fun of him. He knows they're out there. He's not oblivious to them. So he's making fun of them because he's at the dais and is at the podium and he can make that joke.
I kind of agree with Jimmy though. I mean, like, yes,
I don't disagree with Jimmy, by the way.
The mockers aren't wrong.
No, they are wrong. I'm saying that. I mean, I'm not being a fence sitter here. I totally see what you guys are saying. But I also think that when you have a night like this that's a roast, he's making self-effacing, self-deprecating humor. That's what you do.
Which shows that he's at least sort of conscious of the criticism,
Exactly,
something we never
yeah.
really got from George W. Bush.
Right.
I mean, he
Bush
joked about it, but you never felt like he was learning from it.
Right.
He didn't.
Is our president learning? Is our president's learning?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Is our president?
Is our president's learning?
Are they then learning there? But he did stop playing golf. So and he made a big deal out of it. So it does show that he is conscious of, hey, there's a situation happening, and maybe I need to be more serious in life. So so then to go on and make those jokes, you could see anyway. But I'm glad that they do it. I'm glad that they get to take the piss out of each other, and it's fun to watch. You know, he really made that was a real joke about MSNBC, right?
Yeah.
And them being losers, and which you know they are. I wish he would have also made a joke about how sycophantish, I don't know if that's a word, they are to Barack Obama, and she should have made a joke about Al Sharpton kissing his ass about every, what I said 2 + 2 is 5, and Al Sharpton said everybody was wrong. It was something like that.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to see that, but it was nice to see him. It's curious to see who the next Republican president will be in 2032.
Right.
And to see if they go after the right wing, because they never do, and that's the
Probably
whole
not.
thing. You know, I just had a conversation with someone about they're doing a new conservative comedy show. They're going to try and do that. And the gentleman who's hosting, a very funny guy, but it's
who's the host?
Michael Loftus, very funny guy, I like him, nice guy. But there's an inherent problem with conservative comedy. You know, you need comedy to take the piss out of the powerful and the elite, and they protect them. That's what conservatives is all about: protecting status quo, protecting religion, big pharma.
rich.
What are you going to do? You're going to make fun of Dennis Kucinich all day long? You can't. It's not fucking funny.
No, but that's I don't know if it's the same show, but I watched the pilot for that conservative daily show, and that's what it was. It was making fun of Al Gore. Like,
you're making fun
years
of
after that was funny.
Yeah.
Or Hillary Clinton. Oh, look at Chelsea Clinton. She's not a looker. Like, that's literally the jokes he was telling this year.
Yes, I know. So that's all they have. It's like with conservative comedy, the reason why it doesn't work is because it's mean, bullying.
It's not fun.
It's shallow,
mean. Yeah.
and it doesn't take the piss out of the people who need to have the piss taken out of them.
Yeah.
It protects the powerful. It protects religion. Comedy is all about making fun of religion and making fun of status quo.
Exactly.
So that's why we've had we had Barack Obama now 5 years. And he's been so good at it. I don't think we'll ever have another Republican president.
I don't know how Hillary would be.
Uh,
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how she would be either. I mean, she'll have good writers writing jokes. It's a question of the delivery.
Yeah.